Welcome to Finance Series Podcast with Oyekemi Ajayi. It is a great pleasure to connect with you. I have a special guest in the house, and his name is Ajibola Jinodu. He is the founder of My CFO NG, and he focuses on small and mid-sized businesses, providing very insightful content on how to operate a finance unit, finance processes, how to operate as a CFO, what you need to do on financial planning and analysis, and various information that stakeholders require in a business. He's going to be touching on what is required to build a strong finance team, not just a strong finance team, but a high-performing team. And I'm sure this is not what you want to miss. Follow us as we go into this podcast where we are going to be breaking down all that is required to build a strong finance team, all that is required as a CFO to manage your stakeholders, your regulators, your investors, your employees, and a couple of other stakeholders that you have in the business. Thank you. Welcome to Finance Series Podcast. It is a great pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Oyekemi. I've actually seen a few episodes, so I'm actually humbled that you actually invited me to speak.
Wow, thank you so much for coming. All right, so let's get down into this. This is very, very important because in my interaction with a lot of finance professionals, even as a consultant, where I, manage transactions and all that, one way or the other really has with finance units, right, of the client or the target. And these are things that we have seen. In a number of ways, information is not presented in the right manner, right? And at the end of the day, stakeholders are not able to really use this information to make quality decisions. Sometimes it might be that the system in place, maybe the ERP in place, is not as sophisticated as expected, and it might not give you all the right information. Well, maybe not right information. It might not give you all the information that you require.
Sure.
So based on your experience as a CFO, I would like you to touch on how a CFO can manage information, or more like present information in the right manner that would help stakeholders, right, be able to use those information to make the right decisions.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So the way I think about things, and I actually develop them over time, is we think in terms of principles and frameworks. So once you understand the principles, like how it works or how it's supposed to work, then you then develop frameworks to manage all of that. Right. So part of the principles that I always talk about is that people should first understand that all business decisions are finance decisions.
Interesting.
So and breaking it down, it means that no matter what the business is doing, there's a financial impact to it.
There's naira and kobo.
There's naira to kobo to it.
That's true.
And it might not seem that way at the beginning or on the surface, but that's essentially what it boils down to. And then the second principle here is that 90 to 95% of financial activities don't happen in the finance department. So those decisions that people are taking, the founders and all of that, or the executive management, the board, those decisions that they are taking, they actually have an impact on naira and kobo. And it doesn't just even stop there. That's even at the top. So even the decision your operations manager takes has an impact. Even down to, let's say, somebody that is manning the phone, like your customer service person. If the person is rude, you can lose customers. So the point of all of this, to go back to your question, is one of the first principles any CFO must understand is that all of these things that we call financial information, financial analysis, all of those finance stuff is driven by non-finance people.
Right.
So in managing stakeholders, you have to think the way they think and talk the way they talk. But accounting in particular, not just finance, accounting in particular has the set of principles, conventions, standards, and all of those things that we have that teaches people technical things. So the biggest problem there is that we have these trained finance professionals who understand all of these concepts and stuff, but they cannot translate it into the language of the business. In fact, they say accounting is the language of the business. And if you really think about it, the whole point of IFRS and GAAP and all of those things is actually to make financial information simpler for the users of
the financial information.
And the users are not finance people. So if I always laugh that, I always say things like, how many accountants really know IFRS end to end? Not to now talk of the non-finance person.
That's true.
So the long and short of this is the CFO, or I like to say the finance business partner, even if you don't have that role.
Yeah.
If you're in finance, your value is taking all of those technical, complex things and translating them into the language that the business understands. So once you can do that, whatever information you're bringing out is actually very useful to the person that wants to use it.
Can I take you up there?
Yes.
Because this information that we're speaking about can be complex in some instances.
It can be, yes.
So how would they be able to take that complex message, make it clear and compelling for the stakeholders?
So the how still comes down to the principle. If you know who you're talking to,
right,
then you know what to say to them. So information in itself is just information. Communicating that information is a different thing entirely. Yeah. So this is the way I actually always even analyze it, or kind of like use an analogy to say it. So it's like being able to speak two languages, French and English.
Okay.
So let's assume the business speaks English, but now this information is in French. Being a strong finance professional, up to a CFO level. If you're getting to CFO level, then you must have really, so it's like taking, I speak French. Okay, let me translate this French into English. So the biggest gap that people seem to have is they just take that French and dump it on the English speakers, and then now wonder why they don't see the value of what's done in French. So that's actually the biggest thing to do. So it's first assuming the role of what is important to my stakeholders, and then putting yourself in the shoes of that stakeholder. So that's why the CFO is now this very multifaceted, multidimensional person. I know. So you can't just present a three financial statement or take income statement and dump it in front of your operations manager. Has no clue and don't care. Or just even take the information like that and just say, I've prepared the financial statements and put it on the MD CEO's table. So except the person is trained in accounting and finance, and even if they are, it has no value to them because they don't understand what we understand so well in that language. So it starts from there actually in managing whoever you're talking to. So the stakeholders are different. The way you talk to a regulator is different from the way you talk to a supplier. It's different from how you talk to a customer. Talk to your staff, talk to your board, like that. But the thing is, as long as money is involved, some of them are touched. So as a CFO, you actually have to understand that who is my stakeholder and what is important to them. Then how do I develop the system that ensures that what is coming out is able to cater to